Am I the a-hole for finding it hard to care that my wife claimed she was assaulted after she got me thrown in jail? I don't post very much on Reddit, but I needed to get this one out there. Using a burner because why not? I, 36 male, have 3 kids with my wife, 30 female. Things have generally been good between the two of us, but there's been some conflict regarding her tendency to exaggerate when she's angry, as well as some of her personal beliefs. You see, my wife has gotten really into her religion. We're both from the same church, but she's big into the faith healing stuff. You know, those healing services some megachurches do where they lay hands and speak in tongues. I didn't grow up with that in church as a kid and found it really weird, but I put up with it for her. So we recently went to another one of those events, around 5 days ago. When the service ended, she said she wanted to bring our second kid for the healing service the next night. It would take place over 2 nights because he had been having a really bad skin condition on his ankles. I expressed doubt about it because the event had been really crowded and ended quite late at night, around 10 p.m. I really didn't want my kid to be out so late and exposed to so many people in a confined space, many of whom were ill and also seeking healing. My wife went really quiet and, with what felt like some degree of iciness, pointed out a group of people. See those people? They came all the way from Indonesia. Look at how far their faith has brought them. I just shrugged, not picking up on her cue, and responded with something like asking where they were staying if they were from out of town. She didn't answer. Once we got into the car, she exploded at me. She said a lot of things that were honestly pretty nasty. She berated me for not caring about our kid, for not being a leader, for not being sincere in my faith, and so on. I was pretty surprised, and then got really angry. But I didn't raise my voice. I just said I knew she was stressed about the kid, but to please be calm about this and we could talk about it later. She continued berating me as I drove us out of the parking garage, and I tried my best not to get even more distracted. About 10 minutes later, she stopped talking and was only looking out of the window. Then halfway home, she suddenly took her seatbelt off and demanded to be let out. I asked her if she was crazy, stating it was almost 11 at night. She demanded I let her out and started hitting the steering wheel. I pulled over, not wanting to get into an accident. She continued to hit the steering wheel, then started hitting me, yelling, "You useless man," over and over. Then she stormed out of the car, slammed the door hard, and walked away from me. I followed slowly behind her, obviously not wanting her to get lost or worse, get hurt. But then she turned and yelled at me, telling me to stop following her. I obviously didn't listen. She walked and I followed for about 15 minutes. Then suddenly I saw her make a phone call. I thought she was calling her mom, until I saw red and blue flashing lights behind me. She'd called the police on me. She waved for them to stop, and they pulled over in front of her. She pointed at me in the car, then the cops came over to talk to me. They asked me to stay in the car, asked about my license, and if I had any firearms in the car. I just raised my hands and said no. This is where things get ridiculous. They told me my wife said I was a stalker and that I had been following her for the past mile. I said I was her husband and that we'd had an argument and I was following her to make sure she was safe. The cops then went back to talk to her and she started crying and yelling that I was an abuser and was stalking her as a way of controlling her. She threw herself to the ground and started flailing like she was possessed. One of the cops stayed with her while the other came over and asked me to get out of the car. He muttered an apology as he cuffed me. I was furious. They were arresting me? He apologized again and said something like, "Standard procedure, just to be safe, buddy." He instructed me to sit down and not try anything funny, then radioed it in, while the other one helped my wife to the police car to sit. After about 15 minutes, another police car pulled up, and they convened with my wife while I was just left to sit on the pavement. They discussed the matter further, then came over to me and read me my rights. Now I was livid. I asked the police sergeant what the hell I was being booked for, and he said it was because my wife had just accused me of domestic abuse and claimed she had been escaping. I tried to explain what was going on, but the cop just shook his head and told me it would be settled in a while. Then they put me in the car while my wife asked if she could go. One of the cops insisted on giving her a ride home, and she nodded and got in the other car. So yeah, I ended up spending a night in jail, and my car got towed and impounded. When the matter was cleared up in the morning, the duty sergeant told me where to get my car and that an investigating officer would be along to check the claims of abuse. I was so tired at this point. I just nodded my head and grunted. When I got my phone back, my parents were blowing it up. They'd been watching our kids last night, and apparently my wife got home all disheveled and dirty, unable to explain anything. I called my mom ASAP and explained everything to her. She was in disbelief too, but said she and dad would be ready to help with anything. She said the kids had been sent to school already and that they didn't know anything. In fact, they had been pretty excited to spend the night with Grandma and Grandpa. I got back and saw my wife. I didn't say anything to her. She looked like she'd been crying all night. She followed me all around the house as I went to shower and grab a bite. I didn't say anything. When we were at the dining table, she said quietly, "Someone assaulted me." I just continued eating. Before last night, I'd have been hugging her and telling her it was okay. But after what happened, I'm finding it hard to feel sympathy. I just asked who it was. She shook her head and asked why it seemed like I didn't care. I responded with, "I don't know. Should I care?" I left the dining room after that and went to crash on the bed. Now for the top comments. Dude, she's lying to you. She is obviously making this up because she knows she's in deep crap about lying to the cops and getting you arrested. She is trying to manipulate you, plain and simple. Don't buy into her fantasy. You need to seek legal advice immediately. Find yourself a lawyer. She went way, way too far. There is no going back. What she did to you and is now claiming is mentally unhinged. Your children should not be around someone like that. It is not safe. Not the a-hole if you leave, but you will be a total a-hole times 1,000 if you stay. Woman here. Hard agree. She's doing one of the good old Uno reverse emotional manipulation tactics. Kinda like, I did something bad to you, but I'm going to claim something worse happened to me, so that you can't be as mad as you want to be. It's a deflective way to get out of the damage that she's caused, where most importantly to her, she can still be seen as the victim in the situation. Depending on how far OP wants to press that issue, follow-up questions will let him know exactly what he needs to know to officially let her go without hesitation. What time did the officer drop you off? How do you know it wasn't him? Maybe we should inquire about body cam footage. What routes did you take on your walk going and coming back? Everybody has ring cams nowadays. Let's talk to neighbors or businesses to see if the perp can be identified. When did you make it back home? Most of all, let's file a police report. Don't you want justice? If she could lie to the cops to get you locked up for absolutely nothing, she most definitely can, will, and has lied to your face about being assaulted. You need a lawyer. Also, don't be alone with her again. It's not safe for you. Get her to admit she faked the report somehow, ideally over text or in writing, or if you're in a one-party consent state, as a recording. Document her crazy religious outbursts and other stuff. At this point, she's not your wife anymore. She's your opponent in a divorce fight. I'm a bit torn right now because I'm afraid that leaving without my kids will be spun by her as abandonment. But if I do take the kids, she might claim kidnapping. But yeah, my parents have opened their place up to me. It's a 45-minute drive away. If you don't, another accusation will make you lose your kids permanently instead of just temporarily. You need a lawyer right now to figure out how to navigate your situation. Go see one today, don't delay. You're probably right. My dad's been calling in some favors with lawyer friends, and he also says we need to protect me and my right to the kids before she comes up with something worse. I'm just confused as heck where all this came from. Next story. Am I the a-hole? Boyfriend peed the bed and is mad at me for my response. Plus update. Original post. My boyfriend, 27 male, and I, 23 female, just moved into a new house and bought a new mattress. Last night I woke up to a wet feeling under my arm and hand. My boyfriend was already up and in the bathroom. When he came back, I asked him if he spilled something in the bed or knew why it was wet. He told me that he thinks he peed the bed. I asked him again and said, "Wait, are you serious?" And he said, "I think I peed in my dream and peed in real life." We were both half awake at this point, and I was just surprised that he actually did wet the bed. I asked him to go grab stuff to clean it up, and he told me that it was fine. I asked him what he meant by that, and he grabbed a towel, laid it on the wet spot, and got back into bed to go to sleep. I pulled the covers off him and told him that he needed to go grab stuff to clean it up because I didn't want it to get stained. It's a new mattress, and we don't have a mattress cover for it yet. He told me that it was fine and I was overreacting. That statement naturally pissed me off, and I told him I'm not going to sleep in his piss and that's not fair to me. He told me he'd clean it in the morning, and that it's not a big deal and doesn't warrant the reaction I had. That was not the solution I wanted, so I took all the sheets off the bed, threw them at him, and told him to sleep on the couch. It was very irritating hearing him tell me that I'm overreacting because I asked him to clean up his pee in the bed we both sleep in. He then knocked on the door 10 minutes later, asking for a new blanket because the one I gave him smelled like pee. So, am I the a-hole for overreacting to my boyfriend not cleaning up the pee in the bed right away? Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, and get the pee remover used for dogs, because soap and water won't do the trick. Also, get a waterproof mattress cover. I had to get one because I had an elderly cat who would sometimes pee on my bed. The way he was so blasé about it makes it seem like he's done this before. I have a waterproof mattress cover because of sweat spots, period leaks, stomach flus, etc. I don't get a new mattress without buying one. Not the a-hole. That's disgusting. And it's really concerning that he thought it was at all appropriate to curl up and sleep in a puddle of pee. I almost wonder if he wasn't fully awake, thus the realization 10 minutes later that the blanket smelled. Not the a-hole. And if he stays doubled down on this, I would strongly suggest rehoming him and finding one that's housebroken. Now for the update. Thank you guys for the quick replies. This was my first post on Reddit, and I don't use it very much, but after he left for work today, I really couldn't get the situation off my mind. I thought I'd see what y'all had to say. I'll address a few comments from the first post. First off, I wish it was fake, but I really did wake up yesterday to piss in the bed and ended it arguing with my boyfriend. My boyfriend and I have only lived together in small stints here and there before, but this is the first time we have our own house, just us. No, he doesn't have a drug or alcohol problem, diabetes, take meds, and he wasn't drinking that night. He just worked an overnight shift the previous night and was pretty tired. He's never done this before since we've been together, so that's why I didn't believe him at first. And we don't have a lot of money right now, so we got a mattress from Walmart for $300. For those of you bashing that detail, LOL. We both ended up cleaning the pee after I threw the sheets and blankets at him, and I took the bed because our couch isn't big, and I really couldn't be bothered to move to the couch when I felt like I did nothing wrong. I was tired and wasn't thinking that part through entirely. Also, he is not a horrible abusive boyfriend, doesn't have a fetish, etc., like some of the comments have said. And I didn't throw him out of the house. He was truly half awake and was just not responsive the way he needed to be after peeing in our bed. Anyways, he got back from work today with flowers and my favorite ice cream. He told me he was thinking about what happened last night all day and that he was sorry. He apologized for dismissing me and admitted that he was disrespectful. I told him that the only issue I had with the situation was him telling me I was overreacting for wanting him to clean up the pee immediately. That wasn't fair to me, and expecting me to be okay sleeping in his pee was unreasonable. Let me be clear. I understand accidents happen, but to sit there and tell me my response to needing it cleaned ASAP is unwarranted is insane. I appreciated the gesture, and I did read what you guys said. He doesn't have any underlying trauma or alcohol issues. He just peed the bed by accident. I wasn't shaming him for peeing the bed. I was mad at his response. I'm trying to be understanding that he was tired and wanted to go back to bed, but at the same time, this affects both of us. I just needed him to be responsible and acknowledge that what I said was valid and that he needs to grow up. He did order a mattress cover that will be here tomorrow. Until that's on the mattress, I don't want him in the bed with me. I think making him sleep with those sheets and blankets did jolt him awake to realizing the gravity of the situation. I'm still a bit hurt from how he handled the situation selfishly and was inconsiderate, but he seems pretty remorseful, so we'll see how we both feel later. That's it for now. Thank you guys for your advice. Last story. My wife is Disney obsessed, and I'm at my wits' end. It's hard to know where to start with this, but around 12 years ago, my parents took me, 43 male, my wife, 41 female, and kids to Disney World for the first time. My wife instantly fell in love with it, and in the years that followed, as I was doing very well financially, I am the sole breadwinner for the family, we visited Florida a total of 35 times in a 10-year span. We even purchased a property near the park so that we had a home away from home and could Airbnb it when we weren't there. I have to admit, though, that after the first 20 or so times, I started to get rather bored of the parks. We knew them inside out, and the kids and I pretty much rode all of the rides like we were on autopilot, with very little interest or emotion. My wife, however, continued to love every moment of it. That said, the kids and I continued to enjoy the holidays for a further 15 visits, as it was still a nice change from the UK. Sun, palm trees, a swimming pool, etc. Fast forward to now, and our financial situation is different. Although we could technically still afford regular trips, it would eat into our savings and potentially cause us issues in the future. I've done everything I possibly could to make this withdrawal from Florida more bearable for my wife. We moved to Spain so we have good weather and a relaxing life, but she is still constantly nagging me for trips to Florida. I've started putting my foot down, giving her reality checks, and being short whenever she brings up the subject. But I guess Disney is her obsession, her addiction. And I'm the drug dealer who is suddenly making her go cold turkey. Any advice? Am I the a-hole? You should not sacrifice your financial future to feed her Disney obsession. Not the a-hole. I too am the significant other of a Disney-obsessed woman, although not as obsessed as yours. Disney is designed to capture people like your wife, hold their attention captive, and drain your wallet. The mouse always wins. Disney coined the term for their marketing strategy, from the cradle to the grave. Not the a-hole. Sell the Florida property if it's not yet sold, and tell her that if she wants to visit Disney, she needs to get a job and pay for it herself. Also, there is Euro Disney. It could work as a substitute for the real thing. Funny you should say that. Right before this post, I said to her, okay, alternative, sell the house in Florida, and then you can use your half of it to go there as much as you want. I'll keep my half for retirement and kids' future though. That is a very bad idea. Your wife shouldn't spend her half on herself, while you have to sit there pretty much putting your money into your family's future. She is an adult. Both of you should use the money from the house for a future plan, not only you. Don't enable her like that. I knew she would never agree to selling the house. She loves it way too much. I said it more as a way to try and get her to see the bigger picture. Right now, it does well in rentals too, so I'd be shooting myself in the foot.